The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome to the Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday evening. I hope you're all having a good week. Exciting week. Lots going on. I think we've got an interesting show today. Let me lower the volume. I think that's better. Got an interesting show today. I think positive show, I think. Interesting. Yeah, so, looking forward to all of your questions. Super chat is open. All of your questions about heroism. Think about heroism. Why we need it. What's it for? Who's a hero? Who is not? How does it apply to your life? And so on. So feel free to ask questions, of course, about anything, as always. But the focus today is on heroism. Brian, thank you. That is very, very generous. I appreciate that. Great. Before I get to the first thing, and we're going to start actually with living a happy life in an irrational world, and then move into into the role of the hero, because I think the one is related to the other. And I've got a particular case study to talk about today. Somebody wrote me an email that really, I think illustrates this whole point about living in an irrational world. I think it's important. So we're gonna talk about that email, but. Before that, a few things going on. First, thank you for all of you who registered and who subscribed to the Ingenuism newsletter. I encourage you all to go over there, ingenuism.com or ingenuism.substack.com. That is my new project focused on kind of the human progress, the requirements for human progress, particularly the requirements for human progress in the 21st century. What makes progress today unique? Why do we have progress in some areas and not in others? How do we change things so that we have progress, economic success, well-being, prosperity, wealth creation across the board and not just in one subsector? So that is the project. I've already got lined up a number of interviews that I think are going to be particularly exciting and interesting. This is not an explicitly objectivist project. It's consistent with objectivism, but not everything that's going to be written, because I'm not going to do all the writing, is going to be necessarily consistent with every aspect of objectivism. I think in the big picture it is, but it is a sense in which I'm working with people who don't necessarily agree 100% philosophically, but are all striving towards one particular cultural change, and that cultural change is focused on progress, growth, economic liberty, and technological advancement. On Monday, we published the first essay. Again, you can get that at ingenuism.com, and please subscribe. But the newsletter will come out tomorrow. The newsletter will be a weekly newsletter. There'll be articles, short commentary, book reviews, articles to read, commentary articles, all kinds of fun stuff. I really think you'll enjoy it. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please go and subscribe, ingenuism.substack.com. And then starting in the middle of April, we'll start bringing out interviews. We have a YouTube channel. I will let you know once the videos start going up on that channel. The interviews will not be live; they'll be recorded, but you'll be able to access them after. You'll be able to access them. And again, I will let you know as the interviews come out. And I think we've got some exciting interviews with some exciting people to share with you in the months and years to come. So hopefully there'll be an interview every couple of weeks or something like that. We'll see. I'm very ambitious in terms of the kind of people I want to interview. We'll see if they agree to be interviewed by me. So again, not explicitly objectivist project, not explicitly, obviously philosophy is a big part of this, but not explicitly a philosophical project, right? All right. Other news is that I am going to be doing my next Lex Fridman interview next week. I'm flying to Austin, Texas to do the Lex Fridman interview. So I'm looking forward to that. It's got a surprise twist that I'll tell you about after the interview, after we tape it. There'll be somebody else on set as well, so it'll be kind of it won't be a debate, but it'll be a conversation, three-way conversation, if you will. And I think it's going to be exciting and it's going to be interesting. So I look forward to filling you in. Wanda Friedman just said that I passed 220,000 views on the first Lex Fridman interview. Hopefully that bodes well for the second Lex Fridman interview. Hopefully we can get even more there. And I think having this third person there is going to help a lot get those views even higher. So we're going for 1 million this time. We're going for 1 million views this time. Let's see. I think that's all the announcement I have. Emilio wrote in the super chat, he says, "Wish to select this Sunday, Yaron. Hernando de Soto is second in the polls out of 18 nominees. Hope polls don't miss this time." Yeah, I mean, this is exciting. This is in Peru, a country, in Latin America that goes up and down and mostly down, unfortunately, like most countries in Latin America. But Hernando de Soto is one of the better economists in the world today. He's written some, at least one, The Mystery of Capital, which I think is an excellent book and has some excellent ideas. Although it's not clear that in this, he's running for president. So we've got a free market economist running for president. Now, he's watered down much of his economics, much of his views. But for example, one of the things that he wants to do in Peru is make sure that the vaccines in Peru are completely privatized. They will be imported by private enterprise. They will be distributed by private enterprise. So Hernando de Soto has the potential to be the most free market president of any country in the world today, or maybe ever. It's hard to know if he'll stick to his guns. But anyway, the election on Sunday, the top two candidates then run in a runoff. And that runoff, I'm not sure when that runoff is going to be, but let's hope that Hernando de Soto is one of the two top vote getters, so he makes it to the runoff. This is in Peru, in South America. So, I'm rooting for De Soto. We will see if it's if he makes it. If he makes it, it'll be exciting. Of course, polls are notoriously misleading and notoriously wrong. There are like 25 candidates in the Peruvian election. The gap between the leading candidates, the top 5, is not that very big. It could easily go the other way. So let's not get our hopes too high. But I do very much hope let's hope that he succeeds, that he makes it in spite of everything. All right, I'll do this quick wide question because it's related to something we just said. One example of those Ingenuism views are the lines about poverty and CO2. Who wrote that line? And do you endorse the language? I don't endorse the exact language. I have no problem with poverty. It's a problem, and the solution is, I've always said the solution is capitalism, of course. The solution is more freedom. The solution is the same solution that brings about more innovation. CO2, I mean, I tend to think that human activity is causing a slow warming trend. I don't think the slow warming trend is a catastrophe or that much of a problem. I certainly don't accept the solutions that are proposed to it. But I have no problem with the idea that CO2 might be causing climate change and that most people view it as a problem. And even if they do view it as a problem, the solution is more freedom, more capitalism, more innovation, more private incentives to do whatever it does. So whether it's a problem or not concerns me less. What concerns me more is the type of solution involved. And the solution, the point in the article is, the solution to all these problems, or non-problems, as the case may be, But the solution to any challenge faced is more innovation, is more freedom, is more capitalism. So it's not like some things have to be solved by less freedom. So even if you concede the scientific point about CO2, which I'm not doing, but even if you did, it wouldn't matter that much in terms of what the actual solution would be. And even if you concede the scientific point does not suggest catastrophe, does not suggest emergency, just suggests there's a problem. All right, we're getting a lot of questions. $5 questions. It's hard to get a $400 on $5 questions, guys. Ramp it up. But thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Andrew, for your questions. And thank you, Jonathan, for the support. Let's see. All right, let's start with the kind of living in an irrational world. So I got an email from somebody who's asked me not to use their name, so I won't use their name. But I can tell you this about him. He is, and I'm going to read you the email. So he lives in Saudi Arabia. He is a Saudi, born and raised in Saudi Arabia. So let's call him Joe. That's a very Saudi name. Call him Joe. And I'm going to read you the email, and then we'll talk about that, right? I've been a student of objectivism for years. There you go. Did you know the students of objectivism in Saudi Arabia? Matt says, I want global warming. I'm not sure if the Saudis would agree with you. It's pretty hot over there. Pretty unbearably hot over there. But if you live in Canada, global warming is cool. It's perfect. Yes, I think the whole global warming is, I mean, so what, right? And that's what I said. Freedom solves the problem. Anyway, it solves whatever problem there might be. And there might be some problems. Some people might be flooded, so, okay. So, as I always say in my lectures, so you have to move because of the weather. It's not the first time that'll happen in human history. But let's get back to Saudi Arabia. I've been a student of objectivism for years. I'm a young idealist. I'm passionate, love life. I take my life seriously and therefore my happiness seriously. Yet I'm torn. This isn't something I should feel, I tell myself sometimes. But let me tell you a glimpse of where I come from. Now, some of the English here is not quite right. I'm trying to smooth it out, but excuse the bad grammar. He's not a native English speaker, obviously. I live in a country where every single human being disagrees with me in essentials. The disagreement isn't my problem, but it has effects on me, and it makes me suffer. Not only I'm in a constant fear of losing my life and my values, but they also restrict my happiness, dreams, relationships, and my work. My life gradually got better when I fought for it a couple of years back, changed my attitude on some of my ideas, and it got even better when I got a magnificent job with encouraging and highly promising future that very few people have the opportunity of striving for. When I was young, I always knew I'm an outsider. I wasn't an objectivist and I wasn't a capitalist. But I sure knew that my principles and ideals are highly provocative to everything around me and everyone around me. And that is what's killing me. In a video once, you talked about Rand's earlier life. You said something interesting. You said that she was in Russia. When she was in Russia, it was clear she wouldn't survive. I'm not in the exact same situation, but God, do I know the feeling. I know for sure that if I lived in Soviet Russia, I wouldn't survive. And for the last few days, I've been feeling the same about Saudi Arabia. It's bizarre to feel like an outsider in your own country, isn't it? I lived here all of my life, literally, yet I feel like I'm detached from it because of my different view of the world. When I was young, I knew I'm different. I knew I belong. I knew I'm more American than Americans themselves. And I specifically said American here because it's the only nation that I saw my values and principles in. I disagree with most Americans too, but at least That's a common ground between me and some of the people there. I know that I would struggle and not feel a sense of belonging with most people in any country, even the US, but at least there, they can't affect my life in an enormous way like Eastern countries do, like the countries in it does. For a couple of years, I've been working and being productive and getting myself into the culture hardly and tortuously. And for a brief time, I thought, oh, look, I'm not Dominique Francon. She was wrong. She was wrong. My values can be achieved, and happiness is obtainable in the real world. Yet something happened in the last few days, and now I'm torn. Are values obtainable in an irrational world? Can I survive here? And with all this, I know America is more applicable to my values, but not fully and not even close to how I wish. Most of the Americans I know are irrational to a varying degree. Young people always say that immigration is a solution, especially to people who are irreligious. But are Westerners really that rational? Can you really achieve your values in Western countries, knowing that even in Enlightenment countries, they still have a bunch of collectivists and altruists? Am I asking too much? Maybe. But I'm entitled to. I don't know where I will be in 5 years. But I know I will fight for my happiness in life no matter what. Your geography plays a big part in the world we live in. I'll ask you one question to summarize. Let's say you were born in the Middle Ages. Can you truly find your happiness in such a state? Will I live in a country where it's exactly that? Well, I live in a country that's exactly that. Saudi has never been through the Enlightenment. It has never been through the Age of Reason. So can you still be reasonable and happy in such a dreary place? What's your thoughts, Professor? Thank you for your time. All right. So, I mean, this is a really touching email. I mean, here's somebody who has discovered objectivism, has tried to live by objectivism, is ambitious, passionate, and yet lives in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is an authoritarian state. It's a religious state. It's a state that in many regards is, as he writes, still in the Middle Ages. Now, it's a little better than the Middle Ages because he has email and he can write and he can listen to your book show and he can read Ayn Rand and he probably has, as he says, he has a good job and at least the job is productive and exciting and interesting. So in spite of how bad Saudi Arabia is, and it is, it's not the Middle Ages because there's certain values that can be achieved. I think it's almost impossible for most people, for 90+% of people to be happy in the Middle Ages. Life was short, mean, brutish, and short, something like that, right? It was horrible. There was very little time for happiness, very little time for yourself, very little time to do the things that you love doing. It was all about survival. People eked out survival. Right? So the Middle Ages was worse, and I don't think one can attain happiness in the Middle Ages. Saudi Arabia is a little better in that you can at least pursue a career, in that you can at least travel, and you can, because of technology, you can experience different things about the world that are outside of the Saudi culture. But here's the thing. You can never be fully happy in a place like Saudi Arabia. You can never be fully happy in an authoritarian state. You can never be fully happy when the culture around you, it's not just the state, but the culture around you is a culture that is anti your values, that contradicts the essentials of all your values. A culture that in many respects is a culture of the Middle Ages, while you're trying to live a life, a real life, a 21st century life, a secular life and a religious culture, a super religious culture. I don't know how romantic love is possible in a culture like that, given the view of women in the culture. And you could go on in every aspect of the culture. So it doesn't surprise me that you have these highs and these lows, because you might do really well in your work, but then something will happen that's related to the culture around you, the people around you, the people you work with or you work for, that is completely contradicts your values. So I don't think you can maximize your potential, and that's possible that you can't maximize your potential even in the West today, even in America and Europe today. But I think you can get far, far closer to your potential in such an environment. And in that sense, I do think you have to take very, very seriously the idea of immigration. Life is too precious. Time is too precious. We have limited freedom everywhere in the world. But some places are freer than others. But it's not just the political freedom that's important. It's the culture that's important. While it is true that no place is perfect, the culture in the United States is generally a culture, at least in some parts of the United States, of entrepreneurs, of people achieving things, of people succeeding, of still elements of individualism here and there. A culture in America that's not oppressive. So yes, people are irrational. Yes, people are inconsistent. Yes, people, all over the place. Yes, altruism is prevalent. Yes, Christianity is prevalent. But they leave you alone. The great thing about American culture is it leaves you alone. It doesn't try to impose itself on you. Whereas the Saudi culture, most authoritarian cultures, are cultures that try to impose themselves on you. So you have a lot more freedom, a lot more ability to move, to do things, to engage in activities, to start businesses, to be in business with talented people, to start a business, to achieve, to succeed. It's a massive difference. I came from Israel, another country in the Middle East, that's a lot less oppressive than Saudi Arabia. And the difference is enormous. And a big part of the difference is the independence that you feel in America. You don't feel like your neighbors are looking over your shoulder. You don't feel like everybody is your family member, or that your family is everywhere, like it is in Saudi Arabia or to some extent Israel. So no, I think if you really care about your happiness, if you really care about living the best life that you can live in this world, in this imperfect world, then you got to get up and you got to leave. You got to find a way to immigrate. You got to find a way to leave. And I know it's hard. I did it, so I know it's hard. And I know the place you're going to is not going to be perfect. But it doesn't need to be. What you really need in life is to be left alone, to be allowed to pursue your own values, to not be judged constantly. And the fact is, if you're looking for people with values like yours, you're not going to find more objectivists than you will in the United States or Europe, the places in Europe. So you're going to find kindred souls, and you're going to find a world which basically says, go live your life. You can live your life. Yeah, we'll tax you, we'll regulate you. But in many respects, the culture itself is a culture that leaves you alone, a culture of individualism. And the difference will shock you, the difference between that and a culture of collectivism in which you live. So I would encourage everybody living in these conditions. I get emails from many Arab countries, from people who are reading Ayn Rand and enthused about Ayn Rand, I've been invited to speak in some of them even. And all over the world. And your primary focus in life should be, your moral purpose in life should be, to get yourself in the best situation possible for your happiness. To not be encumbered by history or by family or by tradition or by the fact that you accidentally was born in a particular geography or particular country in a particular place. You can move. It's true within the United States. That's true out of the United States. Find the best place in the world where you can achieve your values for you and go there. Don't stay. It's not worth it. You've only got one life to live. All right. So let's see if there are any questions about this. All right. Let's see. Thank you and good luck. All right, let's shift topics quickly because I think it's related. John has sponsored a show on heroism, and so I want to dedicate the rest of the show to that topic, to the need for heroism in one's life, the need to have heroes, the need to identify heroes, the need to embrace heroes in your life, which goes counter to the culture. It goes very much counter to the culture, with a few exceptions. So John sponsored the show, so he sponsored it with a $1,000 contribution. So thank you, John. I really appreciate that, and I think this is important for our friend, for Joe in Saudi Arabia, because you're not going to find heroes in Saudi Arabia. And you've got to become your own hero. So why do we need heroes? And I'd say we need heroes more today than we would, in a sense, in some kind of ideal society. I mean, I think we always need heroes. But in ideal society, right now it's a life or death issue. We need heroes because life is difficult today. It's difficult in the sense that it's hard to stick to your values when the whole world, the whole culture is against you. Everybody around you is opposed to your values. And what is heroism? Heroism is a dedication to the achievement of life-affirming values, in spite of the hardships, while overcoming the odds, and sticking to those values, and achieving those values, and fighting for those values, and never giving up on them. And that's what you need to leave a country like Saudi Arabia. You need to become a hero. And to become a hero, you need to be inspired. We need a concretization of these abstract ideas. It's one thing to know that it's important to fight for your values, to know that it's important to have integrity. But it's very different to completely embrace and integrate that knowledge into our lives, to let that knowledge inspire us, to let that knowledge filter down into every aspect of our life so that we have the courage to live it. It requires a certain integration of our ideas with our emotions, with our passions, with our values, with everything that we're about. that is hard to achieve because the ideas that we hold are very abstract, and how they manifest itself in reality, and how the fight for them manifests itself in reality is hard for us to really comprehend, to really understand. You can think it through, but there's so many options, there's so many possibilities of what can happen. And then you have to believe that it's all worth it. The struggle, the effort, the challenge, the battle, that it's all worth it. In the end, you're better off for it. And you can hold the principles. But to actually hold the principle and the whole sequence and the consequence and everything else, it's very difficult. What art does is it concretizes it for us. An art that has a hero in it. It gives us an image, a person, a story, an identity that combines all these abstract ideas into one concrete, or into a series of concretes. So if you think about Howard Roark in A Query, refusing to give up on his principles vis-a-vis architecture, refusing to compromise, and as a consequence, being sent, not being sent, as a consequence, having to work a manual labor job. How many of you would be willing to stick to their values if that were the price? How many of you are willing to make that trade-off? I mean, very few people are. Very few people have that kind of integrity. But the beauty of a story like The Fountainhead, Howard Roark is, of course, the hero of The Fountainhead, is that now I can hold this idea of the struggle, of the sticking to my principles, of having integrity through and through. I can hold that in the image of Roark. He goes to Query. He fights for his ideals. He comes out of the Query, and he rises to the top of a skyscraper. And that should give you energy. It should give you passion. It should give you excitement. It helps you integrate the idea that the moral is the practical. It helps you integrate the idea that the struggle is worth it. It helps you integrate the idea that happiness is attainable and that challenges can be overcome. The challenges can be overcome. Life is achievable. The good life. Success is part of life. Howard Roark did it. And Ayn Rand writes that it's okay to think in terms of the challenges you face. What would Howard Roark do? In a sense that it, not in some cultish kind of sense, but in a sense that Howard Roark represents certain values, certain virtues that you share, hopefully. And he essentializes those so that you can come up, say, what would Howard Roark do? And you know the answer. And it doesn't mean you don't need to do the thinking for yourself about what you want to do. But knowing that answer, understanding the causal relationship between the integrity, the struggle, and the success, all concretized in one image, make it much easier for you to act. And it doesn't have to be an objectivist hero, because this principle is true. I mean, I have a sculpture of David over there, right? I mean, David's a great character in this story, not in all the stories. He's not always a good guy. But he's a young man who's confident in his abilities and fighting. You know, you could imagine he's fighting for liberty against an oppressive force, of much stronger, much bigger, right? Giants who are oppressive. And he's young and he's inexperienced and he's relatively small and he's got, in the face of these big swords and big armaments, he's got a slingshot. And he goes out into the field. And one of the things I love about Michelangelo's David is he is standing confidently before the giant with a slingshot, naked, with a confidence and assertiveness. I can do this. And he does. And you look at Michelangelo's David, and it's inspiring. This David is after he's already killed Goliath, and he's got one foot on Goliath's head, so he's chopped off his head, and he's won already. Right? So it's inspiring. Hey, if this 16-year-old, 14-year-old, whatever, however old he is, I think Michelangelo's David is older, probably 18, 20-year-old, can beat Goliath and can do so with such confidence, such serenity, then what can't you do? What can I do? If you can go into the field facing giants, you can stand up to your parents and stand up to your family and stand up to your culture and leave and pursue your happiness. The hero is there to inspire, to help us see in concrete form the integration of our values, the sum total of our values manifest in reality, in action in reality. A hero acts. A hero acts. And that integration of mind and body, of emotion and thought, of our values, our emotions, and our actions, those integrations are what make life, right? Or what make happiness possible in life. Make life worth living. And heroes are so essential. And it doesn't even have to be a hero fighting for a cause you believe in. Often, you can find heroes who, the cause might not be that exciting to you, or might not be your cause, or you might be opposed to the cause. But it's the fight. It's the extent to which they're sticking to their values and their principles. Now, obviously, it can't be evil. But think of Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, in Hugo, and generally Hugo's heroes. I mean, none of Hugo's heroes have my values. But Hugo's heroes are idealists. They believe in their values. They live their values. They fight for their values. They struggle for their values. And sometimes they achieve their values and live in accordance with that achievement. And to see that, because you don't see it much in life, to have an image of somebody who doesn't give up, who fights for what's important to him, who strives to see his world become a reality, who strives for the ideals. I mean, think about the world we live in. We live in a world of cynicism, anti-idealism, pragmatism, whatever, man. Idealism is laughed at. And more than ever in a world like this, in a world that knocks down everything, that pulls down everything, that makes fun of everything, that everything is a joke, everything is worth tearing down. In a world like that, you need heroes more than ever, because it's so easy to give up on your values. It's so easy to give up on the struggle, because it looks like, what's the point? Everybody's telling me there's no point. It's all meaningless. Life is meaningless. Values are meaningless. Consistency is meaningless. Integrity is meaningless. Everywhere around us. Every TV show. is filled with the cynicism and skepticism and just a anti-idealism. If somebody's an idealist don't show, they make fun of him, they ridicule him, they put him down. Now, there are a few exceptions, which, I think is good. So, the need for heroism is never greater than the culture we live today, because of this cynicism, which I think is destroying young people. And you can see it in the kind of things that they like and the kind of things that attract them from the radical left, politically, from the radical left to the radical right. They're all trollers, they're all cynics, it's all about humor. There's no positive content. It's all about putting down the other side and be clever about it. Memes. As compared to heroes. I mean, think of, go back to the great Greek heroes, even people like Odysseus or Achilles. Now, Achilles in particular is a hero of the physical world, of action, but he's a hero. He fights. He's going to achieve what he thinks is right, even when we can identify what he thinks is right as not being right. It's inspiring to see people fight for what they believe in. It's inspiring to see people live as if their virtues matter. How many people live as if their virtues and values matter? As if morality matters? That's beautiful, and it's inspiring, and it's exciting. And it's great to watch. It's great to see. And given the lack of heroes in real life, we need them more and more and more. In our literature, in our movies, in our sculptures, in our paintings. Anywhere where you can project that image. Because we need that fuel. Ayn Rand called art the fuel of the soul. Well, heroes fuel our soul. They fuel our being. They fuel our actions. They fuel our actions. They fuel our spirit, our willingness, our will to do what's necessary, to live the kind of life we know we should. What fuels that? What makes that a reality? Or what helps make that a reality? Is an image of what Howard Roark would do, or what Dagny would do, or what Jean Valjean would do, or what would Achilles do? Or what would George Washington do? You can have heroes in the real world, although I think the fictional ones are more powerful. But what would George Washington do? And it's good to identify heroes in the real world today because, of course, if you can find them, then that's even more applicable. Even in this world, look, there are people who succeed. I mean, think about Ayn Rand. And again, people like to be, this is not about the person, it's about the ideas. But no, think about the person for a second. It's so easy to make, as people love to do, make fun of her accent, her, whatever flaw you want to find in her. But here's a young woman who came to America with nothing. Nothing. And fought poverty, came to this country a little bit before the Great Depression and lived through it, fought the language, learn a new language, write in a new language, and succeeded beyond imagination. Even if you put aside the importance and longevity of a philosophy, just in her own life. I mean, she wrote two of the greatest books in the English language, two of the greatest novels, American novels ever written, that are now identified as American novels. Here's this little Russian woman. Bestsellers, very successful financially, lived in beautiful homes, ultimately lived in the city she loved, New York. Succeeded against all the odds. Turned down by 12 publishers for The Fountainhead. And you can go on and on and on. I mean, what a life. If any of us lived 1/10 of that life, it would be amazing. So holding her as a hero, and you can see people snickering but yeah, what a giant. Or think about business leaders that have been incredibly successful in spite of having to overcome great obstacles. Steve Jobs being fired from the company that he started in his garage. Or was it Wozniak's garage? I'm not sure. And then coming back triumphantly and turning the company into the biggest company and most successful company in the world. I mean, it's inspiring. It should help keep you going, help keep you motivated. And there are plenty of examples of people who will not give up on their values, who don't sell out, and use them to fuel your own commitment to your own values, really to your own life. Right? Use those heroes, hold them in your mind, seek them out, read stories about them, buy sculptures and paintings that portray them. Because the beauty of sculpture, it's right in front of you. David, yeah, that's cool, great. Yeah, it's. I mean, think of this guy. Whoops, that guy. But do you know who that is? That's Beethoven. Think about a musician in the early part of the 19th century, writing symphonies and piano works and writing music. You know, somehow making a living at it. Successful. Doing well as you could in the early part of the 19th century as a musician. And then coming to the realization that you're going deaf. That you're losing the sense that makes your art possible. You're losing the sense that makes it possible for you to execute on your art. Realizing that if you write music in the future, you will never hear it. And then going ahead and writing some of the greatest pieces of music in all of human history. Getting better. Every step of the way. Getting better every symphony you write. Getting better every concerto you write. In spite of the fact that every time you do it, your hearing is just a little bit less, right? I mean, the story is that when Beethoven premiered his 9th symphony, and he conducted it himself. There was a large audience came. He conducted it himself. But the orchestra didn't pay attention to his conducting because they knew he was deaf. So his conducting was irrelevant because he couldn't hear them. But when so he didn't quite finish conducting at the same time as the orchestra did. But then, at the end of the symphony, and the 9th symphony is a very unusual symphony. It breaks all the rules in terms of symphonies. It's the first time ever you have a choir singing in a symphony, for example. It's longer, I think, than any other symphony written before it. So it was not clear it was going to be a success. And when he finishes conducting it, one of the orchestra members needs to come out and turn him around to show him the audience giving him a standing ovation. because he can't hear it. He can't hear them clapping. So that's heroic. That's a hero. Sticks to his values. Figures out how to write music in spite of not being able to hear. He can hear it inside his mind. He can't hear it out there. And think about it. One of the greatest works of art ever, the Ninth Symphony, is written by a composer who basically can't hear anymore. That should inspire you. What can you do? What blocks you from achieving greatness? What's blocking you from being the best version of you that you can be? What's blocking you? Is it anything like Beethoven's deafness? Is it anything like Ayn Rand coming over from Russia and trying to write in English and trying to become a novelist or screenwriter? Is it anything like Jean Valjean being hounded by a policeman and having the kind of history that he has? And if you have not read Les Miserables, you have to read Les Miserables, one of the great experiences you will have in life. What's your excuse? And maybe these stories, maybe these heroes can remind you that no excuse is acceptable. No excuse is acceptable. Live. There isn't anything else. There isn't anything else. So yes, find heroes and adopt the heroes that speak to you and use them to motivate you, to inspire you, to drive you towards the achievement of your full potential, of what you can do in your life, what you can do with your life. All right. Charlie says that Les Miserables is even more amazing in French. I can only imagine. I'm sure it is. I'm sure the language Hugo used is beautiful, and I'm sure it's more amazing in French. I'll never be able to experience that, unfortunately. Okay, so let's take some questions that relate to this issue of heroism, and then I'll get to some of the other questions that you guys might have. Let me just remind you to like the show if you like it before you go. John, I'm glad you're on live. Thank you. Hopefully this is what you were looking for. I remind you to like the show, remind you to support the show through the super chat, and now's a great question to show that you like these kind of shows, these positive shows, these inspiring shows, these shows that deal with questions that are applicable to your life right now, every minute, every day. Politics, what changes are we going to bring about in politics today, tomorrow? But you can change your life today, right now. At the end of the day, what should really matter to you is how to live your life, how to make the most of your life. What Biden or Trump does, they're going to do. Not in your control. This is in your control. All right, let's see. Whoops, that's wrong. Let's see some questions on this topic. Start with the $20 ones. How would you conceive of an ideal superhero? How would he act? How different would he be from modern superheroes? I know you don't like the idea of superheroes, but that's the question. It's for literary endeavors. How would I conceive of an ideal superhero? I mean, an ideal superhero would be somebody who uses their minds primarily to solve problems. Uses their minds to use their mind. The superhero uses his or her mind to resolve the issues that are facing. I'd love to see a thinking superhero. Now, there's an extent to which you see that a little bit. Now, I'm not as familiar with superheroes as you guys are because I didn't read the comics. I haven't followed every single movie. I don't obsess about them because I don't particularly like the super in superheroes. And I don't particularly like the movies. I don't think they're particularly well made. And part of it is because they're all about the body. They're all about the physical nature of it. I also think that because they use supernatural, they turn into these constant contradictions. Now, that doesn't mean it needs to be, somebody mentions Mr. A, who was a superhero written by, I forget his name, who was an objectivist who wrote the original Spider-Man. Somebody will remind me online his name. But where it's very, I think, very rationalistic and very, all right, I need, A is A, let's deduce from A is A everything from here. Steve Ditko, that's right. I mean a problem solver, a real problem solver who doesn't have to start with A is A every time because that's not indeed how a thinker starts. A thinker starts with A, with reality. You don't have to remind yourself A is A. A superhero would never remind himself as A is A. So it would be a thinker who had, in that sense, while Batman is very dark in all kinds of ways, but I like the premise, right? Somebody who's wealthy, who uses his skills, his talent, his mind, the innovative skills of his company to create, if you will, weapons or tools to turn him into a superhero. So I like the concept of Batman. But then the question is, how do you avoid the altruism, which is implicit and often explicit in every single one of the superhero movies and the superhero stories? He has to be somebody who's doing it. Yeah, Batman has no superpower, which was what I like about him. What I don't like is the ones that are just born with it, and Although you can imagine somebody born with superpowers, and then what do I do with them? And it would be good to have that question: what do I do with them? And why is using them to cheat and steal not good? Why is using them for evil not good? It would be good to illustrate that in a story. That even though you have superpowers, lying, cheating, stealing, even if you can get away with them because you have superpowers, don't actually provide you with values. Don't actually add to your self-esteem. And therefore don't actually make you a good, happy person. So you would have to have that kind of storyline where maybe there's a temptation of evil, and you show why evil, why bad doesn't work, is impractical. One of the things I don't like about the superhero movies is they're not happy, the superheroes. Even not at the end of the movie, not after they've won even. So you want to have, somebody mentions Tony Stark, what do you call it, Steel Man, something like that. I can't remember. But he's an entrepreneur. He builds things. It's great. What a premise. But he's a jerk. And he's never happy. And he's second-handed. And he's always power lusting. And then he realizes, oh, that didn't work. Sorry, I better be a good guy. Iron Man. Sorry, not Steel. Iron Man. So it has to be somebody who knows the values he's fighting for. You have to be able to show, not say, but show that these values are not altruistic, they're selfish. That other values would lead to his own destruction. Okay. And then even if they have a superpower that is physical, it is not the physical that wins. It is not even a superpower. It is not the physical that can change the world, save the world. It has to be thinking. It has to be thinking. So they have to have values. They have to have integrity. They have to be thinkers, whether they have superpowers or not. And they have to have the capacity for happiness. And there has to be an indication, a suggestion that it's achievable. And that they will achieve it if they stick to their values. Hopefully that gives you an outline. I was told when I was a kid not to admire anyone too much. You'll find out they have feet of clay, I was told. Luckily, I didn't listen. Good for you. Ayn Rand, in the Romantic Manifesto, has this unbelievably touching, powerful essay. And I can't remember its name now. Anyway, it's about a man who she befriended, who, when he was young, loved superheroes, loved the cartoons, but was constantly told, life's not like that. Don't seek out heroes. Don't try to be a hero. Don't admire people. Basically, life sucks, everything mediocre. And, he was a successful person. He did well in life, but he was never happy. Because, yes, art and moral treason. Thank you. One of the most powerful essays you'll ever read. Because she identifies the extent to which that is treasonous against life. It makes it impossible for a person like that to be happy, to be successful, to enjoy himself, to strive and to achieve. It's so sad. So tragic. And this is so common for parents to tell their kids, don't admire anybody too much. Don't think that those superheroes represent anything in reality they don't. Instead of teaching them, no, you see, the values, the idealism, that's what you should strive for. Their particular values, their particular idealism might not be right, but that's what matters in life. That's what's important in life. Live that. We'd live in a different world if that's how kids were raised, if that's what kids were taught. A completely different world. So, it's moral treason to say that to a kid. Now, there is a certain truth to beware in real life, because real life heroes often disappoint. But that's the beauty of art. Art is finite. They don't disappoint in art. They are what they are. And you can admire them, and you can try to be them, and you can make it part of your life's mission to be a hero, to have integrity. I think heroism is a virtue under integrity. Courage is as well, I think. Courage and heroism. And focus on the achievement. Ellen writes, heroes are still human and can make errors. It is their achievements that count, not their vices or the world's vices. Absolutely. I mean, focus on what's achievable. Focus on what they achieve, because what they achieve is achievable to you. All right. I noticed a connection between the themes of Achilles and John Galt. When their values are threatened, they withdraw their people and refuse to continue fighting. I was thinking of writing an essay about it if nobody else has. Yeah, there's a sense in which that's right, but and I don't think anybody's written about it. I mean, it's obviously very, very different. Galt is doing it in secret. Achilles is not. He's making a big deal out of it. It's part of who he is. It's very different values, of course. But the thing about Achilles is he's an idealist. There's certain ways in which you fight. There's certain things you fight for. There's certain ways to do things. And if those things are not going to be done that way, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to participate. I'm going away. I'm going home. Right? And I think there's probably a theme in other pieces of literature, which I can't think of right now, about kind of withdrawing once, and that's part of being a hero. I'm not going to do this by other people's rules. It has to be my rules. Right? So I think that I'd be interested to see an essay like that, because right now I think it's a stretch, but maybe you can flesh it out more, the relationship between Achilles and gold. Rich, thank you. That's very generous. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Brad. Thank you, Daniela. Really appreciate it. Yep. I mean, it's great to see you guys contributing to a show on this topic. It's really fun. This is fun. All right. Let's see. Do you know of anyone who has made sculptures and paintings of scenes of Rand's novels? I would love to have a painting of Rourke and Dominique on Wyand's building, or Stoddard Temple scene, or Dagny and Francisco on the cliff, etc. There are. So somebody on the chat remind me of the name of the painter of the painting I'm pointing to. Right? He's represented by Quinn Corder's gallery. And I can't remember names. I apologize. They just slip out of my mind. And he has, I think in the gallery, if you go to Quinn Corder's gallery, he's got a bunch of paintings depicting Dominique, Brian Lawson. Thank you, Al. Brian Lawson. So this is Brian Lawson. That's Vermeer. This is Brian Lawson. Brian Lawson has a number of paintings from scenes of Atlas Shrugged, or at least the characters of Atlas Shrugged. I think you can get copies of them. So yeah, check out Quinn Corder's gallery. He did them, I think, as studies for potential book covers for Atlas Shrugged at some point. They were never made into book covers, but I think he's made them into prints and he sells them. And again, you can check them out on Quinn Corder's art gallery. Okay, I've noticed that many people love the hero of the movie, The Princess Bride, in spite of the fact that he is a pirate. Why do you think that is? Is it simply because none of his piracy is seen by the audience? I mean, people love pirates. I mean, pirates are often portrayed as heroes. Generally, there is a admiration for people who live kind of on the edge, people who live outside of the law, people who are, And I think what people like about the pirates, put aside the fact that they live on stolen goods, is they're living outside of convention. They don't pay attention. They don't care about the conventional wisdom, the conventional approach. They give a sense of freedom. They're not bound by, again, convention, culture. They have their own kind of sense of justice. It's not good, but it's an own sense of justice, right? On the ship, between pirates. If they were shown raping and pillaging and just being complete brutes, then that. But the movies of pirates are not like that, and often pirates in the 18th century are portrayed as, people that a huge injustice has befallen them, and it turned to piracy as a form of revenge. And you can kind of sympathize with them because this really bad thing happened to them. So in the case of The Princess Bride, he's a pirate But we don't really know what kind of pirate. We don't really know what he's doing and why he's doing it, what motivates him. And in The Princess Bride, he's courageous. He's fighting for what he wants. The girl, I think, the princess. He doesn't compromise, and he's all out there. And I think that's what people respond to. If they saw him raping and pillaging, I don't think they'd respond that way anymore, right? So many pirates, and I've read many books on pirates and many novels which are inspiring, which are fun, and a lot of books and a lot of movies, old movies from the 40s and 50s. They always presented the pirate as a seeker of justice in some way, as going into piracy because of some great injustice that was committed to them. And they never show, these are always honorable pirates that only steal from the government, or only don't rape and don't pillage, and more like Robin Hood than kind of the real image of the pirates, which is a raper and pillager. At least the old Batman, he kills the Joker and stands atop the city with triumphant music playing. In the 2008 one, he saves the Joker's lives and takes the blame for the murders. I left the theater baffled. Yeah, because Batman's become more altruistic. And the point of the Batman movies is not his heroism. It's not his success. I think that the Batman trilogy, which I think is very well made, right, that was made by Christopher Nolan, is much more criticism of our culture, a criticism of our world, a criticism of the people who live in this world. That's the focus of it. It's the people who join the Joker. It's the people who blame Batman. It's the fact that no matter what Batman does, he never wins. It's the fact that they view him as the evil guy, and they're much more sympathetic to the real bad guys. The movies are about the evil of the culture, and I think they're very effective. And again, it was very, very well made. I mean, those, I think, are the best superhero movies made, because they're good movies, they're good art, because they achieve what they want to achieve. And the Joker is truly evil. Evil beyond belief in the trilogy. And the evils are all evil. And only in the end, this Batman, and the only way Batman can succeed, the only way Batman can achieve happiness, is by leaving the culture. It's by stopping to be a superhero and going off to Paris with the woman he loves, and not playing the game the culture set up for him. Not taking the blame anymore. And that happens in the third movie at the very end. It's not completely believable, but the way the movie sets it up, that's his only out. And and to his credit, he takes it. He doesn't continue sacrificing. But yes, Batman, the movies of Batman are not about, that trilogy at least, the Christopher Nolan trilogy, is not about heroism. It's not even about it's about degraded culture and the way degraded culture treats its heroes. That's what I think it's mostly about. All right, I want to remind everybody to like the show before you go. We should have a lot more likes than that. We've had a lot of people come in and out, a lot of people leaving. I'm not talking politics, so they go away. Don't forget to support the show. You can do so, youronbrookshow.com/support. You can do so on Patreon and on Subscribestar. But you can also do so, and to show your support for this particular show, this particular episode, you can do so on the Super Chat. And it's great to see so many of you participating in the Super Chat. But I don't have a Hadrina, so I don't know how much we've raised so far. And I don't know how far we are from our goal. Our standard goal, our kind of threshold is $400. We don't want to be below $400 a show. We can go a lot above that, but we shouldn't go below that. So I don't know. I have a feeling we're below that. We're probably, I'm just taking a wild guess now, Yeah, we're probably, let's see. We're probably at 250, 260, maybe 300. But so we're about, thank you, Super Pill. I'm not sure what that is. So we're probably about 100 short of a goal of 400. Oh, wait. Let's see. We're done with the $20 questions. Let's take some of these others. But I'm looking for ones that are Twitter books, tweeting, reading classic books doesn't make you a better person. Has that attribute of neurotic social comparison of egalitarianism? Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, it's pathetic. Reading classic books can make you a good person. It doesn't guarantee that you will be a good person. But it's actually hard to be a good person if you don't read classic books. Because you don't have the models. You don't have the concrete. You don't have it all fleshed out. You don't have the spiritual, emotional integration with your ideas. You can't overestimate the value of reading great literature, heroic literature. That's why I've said, read Hugo, read Hugo, read Hugo. Let's see. Is being a tough guy a bad life strategy? Yeah. What's the point? What does it even mean? Tough on what? Tough on whom? Tough when? Why? Right? You want to be a principled person. You want to be a courageous person. You want to be a person who stands up to people who threaten your values. You want to be tough in the face of people threatening your values or people trying to destroy your values. But what exactly is the point of being tough for the sake of being tough? I mean, there are times when you should be sweet. There are times when you should be funny. There are times you should be loving. There are times you should be contemplative. Toughness is important sometimes. It's important when you face a situation where toughness is required. But toughness is not always required. You should be strong in your commitment to your values. You should be strong in your integrity. You should be strong in your courage. But being a tough guy is just silly. And even when confronted with a threat, it's very often the case that it's better to walk away. So being a tough guy and getting into fights for the sake of getting into fights when fights can be avoided, or egging on somebody into a fight where the fight could have been avoided, and there's no value in any of that. There's no value in any of that. Right? The value of being a tough guy is to be tough when it's necessary. To stand up for your values when that is appropriate. To fight for your values when that is appropriate. But you need to know when not to be tough. So you need to have the right balance in life. Too many people have one psychological deterrent to whom and for what. Usually, most tough guys I know are tough because they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't have any kind of sophisticated values. They don't have anything really to say. They don't have nuance. They're not sure of themselves. They lack self-esteem. They might project confidence, but they lack self-esteem. The world is not a threat to you. The world is not a threat to you. I mean, some people in the world are a threat to you, and you've got to be ready for them. But the world is not a threat to you. You can achieve, you can succeed, you can Make the world your own. But for that, you need to have the right ideas and the right attitude, and the willingness to fight intellectually more than anything else for those ideas, for those values, for your life. All right. Let's see what I want here. All right. Let's see, anything else? Why does super pop culture upholds glorified super policemen and calls them heroes? Is it because the core of their character is supposed to be sacrifice? Why aren't they better people as characters? I'm not exactly sure what the question is, but I think people deep down, or people generally, not just deep down, people want justice. People want the bad guys to be killed or to go to jail. They want the good guys to win. That's part of the culture. That's almost every culture that's true. Now, the fringes, the nihilists who don't care. But everybody else wants the bad guys. That's why they love vigilante movies. They love like super cop movies, like the RoboCop. They just blow up all the bad guys, just destroy them all, kill them all, wipe them all out. That's because we still live in a culture that values justice, that sees a difference between good guys and bad guys and wants to see the bad guys destroyed. So they glorify the super cop, even if that super cop violates what we consider individual rights and does all these other things. If he gets the bad guys, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. We need to crush them. We need to kill them. We need to destroy them. And everybody will rally around that. Even if politically they might go out and be in a demonstration the next day about defunding the police. Partially because they don't get a sense today that the police are efficacious in getting the bad guys, right? In destroying them. James asks, thoughts on people who consider their parents their heroes, who one finds a hero is an optional issue in objectivism. But does this indicate a lack of values-oriented of any sort, accepting conventionality? Yeah, I think almost always that's the case. I mean, I'm sure there are parents who are heroic, who are indeed heroes, right? But I think most people who say their parents are heroes are just buying into the convention. And who you find a hero is optional issue in objectivism, yes and no, right? You can't find somebody to be a hero who's not a hero, who doesn't qualify under the definition, who isn't an idealist, who doesn't pursue values, who doesn't... You see, most people think of a hero as a sacrifice. That's the definition of hero. And there are lots of sacrifices, so they all get the label. But no, for objectivism, it's somebody who's fighting for life, for values, for an ideal. And very few parents are heroes. And I think people buy into the idea that they have to love their parents more than anything else, that they have to respect their parents, that they have to think their parents are heroes, that they owe their parents all this stuff, when indeed they don't. I mean, your parents deserve the respect that they deserve, depending on how they treated you and what kind of human beings they are. But I highly recommend that you not only look for great people in the world around us that deserve to be viewed as heroic, but also that you look at art for heroes, because I think that can be much more inspiring. John, thank you. Really appreciate the support. Appreciate you sponsoring this great topic. This is great. Thanks. Thanks for all the support. All right, let's see what else we have here. Is there a clear line between protecting others becomes a sacrifice as opposed to self-interested principle? Of course, there has to be a line. What's the clear line depends on the context, depends on your values. But ultimately, the line is this consistent with your self-interest? Is there some value of yours you're fighting for here? Is there a real reason for this? So the line is, are you doing this out of a sense of duty? Bad. Out of a sense of you have to have other people? Bad. Or are you doing this out of a sense of, I want to live in a world of justice. I want to live in a world of freedom. And this is essential for me to achieve that world. This is what's required for me to live in that kind of world. And therefore, I don't know, I'm going to fight the enemy, or I'm saving these people from X, Y, Z. It's why are you doing it? What is the motivation? Didn't powerful Roman families used to have their kids idealize the accomplishment of their ancestors in order to stoke their own ambition? Maybe. I'm not familiar enough with Roman culture to tell, but yes, I mean, that makes sense. Knowing about, but of course, there it was partially a tribal thing. It's your ancestors. And my point is, find heroes. They don't have to have the same color skin as you. They don't have to be the same ethnic group as you. They don't have to be the same religion as you. They just have to be heroes. And abstract away from them the principles that'll help you, that'll drive you. Is Edmond Dante a good character in your opinion? Remind me where you gotta give me more context, guys, because you know my memory is. So what's Edmond Dante in what? Oh, is this the Count of Monte Cristo? Yeah, I mean, I think vengeance is fine. I have no problem with vengeance. I mean, you're saying it as if vengeance is bad. So you're saying, is Edmond Dante, this is the Count of Monte Cristo, a good character in your opinion? Though it's about vengeance, it's also about redemption and forgiving. Yes. But it's only through the vengeance that you can gain the redemption. And I don't know, evil people deserve evil stuff happen to them. And if it won't happen to them without my help, vengeance is great. When it's done in the name of justice. So I don't think of the Count of Monte Cristo as just a book about vengeance. It's a book about justice. And it's a book about, taking it into your own hands and making sure that justice is done. So, it's forgiving I'm not too cool with, right? It's forgiving I'm not crazy about. But, so I think Edmond Dante is a good character. I would highly recommend reading The Count of Monte Cristo. Sympathy on who goes, the man who laughs, in what way is the main character. Gwynplaine, I can never pronounce the name, a hero. I mean, primarily, and I haven't read the book in a long time, although, thank you for reminding me because I should. And is sticking to his values and not giving up and fighting for his cause. Again, a form of justice. I'm not going to read it in French. Any of these books in French. Read them in English. It's fine. I really liked Ivanhoe, a book about heroes. Really liked Ivanhoe. The Flight of the Phoenix. It's not a book about heroism. It's not a movie about heroism, but it's a good movie. The original, the one made in the 60s, I think. That's a really, really, really good. The one with Jimmy Stewart. That's a really, really good movie. The Man Who Laughs. Yeah, so it's the sticking to the values, the seeing it through. His capacity to, yeah, Jose says capacity to love and goodwill. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, in spite of all the horrible consequences, not consequences, all the horrible circumstances, Jesus, all the horrible circumstances. Love this type of topic. It's very inspiring. Thank you. Wish I had more to give. Really appreciate it. What would you think about Batman's no-kill rule? Is it a rule that's too altruistic, or does he deserve credit for having rules in the first place? No, it's completely altruistic. I think it's Superman's rule. I think, well, Batman and Superman, I think. Why? Of course you should kill. I mean, killers deserve to be killed. I think it's absurd. I think it's absurd, the no-kill rules. And having rules in the first place? No, rules are not, I mean, bad rules are not better than, I mean, what you want are good rules. If the rules are bad, then it's no good. So I'm very much against the no-kill rule. Somebody's trying to kill you. Somebody's trying to destroy the planet. Somebody to destroy civilization. Shoot the bastard already. Get it over with. I mean, the no-kill rules place huge numbers of people in jeopardy. Create situations in which the hero almost dies, the woman he loves almost dies, the world is ended almost. Is Lois Lane a hero as a journalist? Is the defender of freedom of the press heroic in seeking the truth? Then again, to use this power to her. Yes, she's absolutely a hero. So great journalists are heroes. Here's the movie you got to watch for that. It's the movie I recommended earlier about, what's it called? I can't believe I can't remember. Oh, Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is a movie about a heroic journalist. And yeah, seeking the truth is heroic. Seeking the truth against amazing obstacles is heroic. Watch Mr. Jones. It's the best movie of the last couple of years. It's excellent. Read the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind, especially book 6, Faith of the Fallen. That is Terry's homage to Ayn Rand. Yes, absolutely. Actually, in some ways, enjoyed the first 2 books before he got into the objectivism more than the latter books, where there was a lot of objectivism in all the books after book 6, even in book 5 a little bit. Yes, there's a hero. I mean, that's what I liked about Terry Goodkind's books. I mean, there was a real hero. It's the Sword of Truth. Inspiring show in some of the rage in society. Is some of the rage in society an effect of lack of romantic drama? Yeah, I think so. I think we are poor, dramatically poor in the world in which we live, for lack of drama, for lack of beauty, for lack of heroes. And I think it destroys young people. I think young people are then don't have role models, don't have anything to idealize. It's all cynical. It's all disgruntled about everything. They grew up on The Simpsons and on comedy. They just it makes fun of everything, of everybody, tears down everybody, ridicules everybody and everything, and they can't relate to an ideal. So what do they want to do? They want to tear down. They want to ridicule. They want to pull everything down. And that's the rage. No question. Art shapes society, just as society shapes art. It goes in circles. And to the extent that the art is an art of, what's the best television show of the last 10 years? It's Breaking Bad. What do you learn from Breaking Bad? That there are no heroes, there are no good guys. Everybody will be destroyed because of the bad guys. There are plenty of bad guys. Everybody really is a bad guy. And being bad doesn't pay off. But it also can be fun in the meantime. And you get to, the ending of Breaking Bad is so evil because you get to leave in a blaze of glory. He should have died in some little corner from a drug overdose, withering away slowly and painfully, not as some blaze of pseudo-heroic glory. So Breaking Bad is exactly the thing that kids are growing up on, and it generates the rage. It's that. It's the Family Guy. It's South Park. It's all of that. Right? Where are the positive role models? Where's anything positive, anything heroic, anything idealistic? And I told you I kind of liked this Lasso TV show on Apple TV that at least was positive. It was comedy, but at least was positive and non-cynical. Came in late. Thank you for these types of shows. What's your favorite question to quickly get to know someone? I don't do that, so I don't have one. I customize my questions to the circumstances and to what I get from the pulpit. I don't have a recipe. I don't go into meetings with, this is what I'm going to ask. I've got my one question. I never do that. Yeah. Let's see. How do you reconcile the vices of the real-life heroes in other realms? How big a vice nullifies the heroism? I mean, it depends on the vice, but I think if the heroic act was truly a heroic act, that's what matters to me. And I don't know if Steve Jobs was heroic in business. He treated his daughter really, really badly. Okay, get over it. I mean, it's not good, but it doesn't change. It doesn't put a blemish on what he achieved. He yelled at some people. He mistreated an employee. Not a big deal. Not in the context of what he achieved. What else? So it's the context matters. And of course, this is the challenge with real-life heroes. Almost all of them will have some blemish. But if they're real heroes, then the blemishes will be minor relative to their achievements. Now, if the guy's a murderer, then of course that wipes out any positives. If the guy, reminds me, this is a story, I don't know if it's true, I haven't gotten to this part of the book, but there's a story about Toscanini, the great conductor who met Richard Strauss after World War II. Richard Strauss was a great composer who stayed in Germany under the Nazis and collaborated with the Nazis. And Toscanini meets Richard Strauss and he says to him, "Sir, I put my hat on to you for your ability as a musician, and I take it off 1,000 times for you as a human being." Right? He said that to his face. So that's, if somebody does good but does 1,000 things that are bad, then all the bad wipes out the good. Doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you don't listen to Richard Strauss's music. It just means as a human being, it doesn't matter. He was a bad guy. Landon says, "I've watched Ted Lasso 3 times and have tried to adopt his unbelievable optimism and benevolence. True hero, thank you for the recommendation." My pleasure. Why does you've done that? I am rereading The Fountainhead off and on when I feel emotionally drained. It's food for the soul. Yes, it is. Good for you. Sherlock Holmes versus Hercule Poirot. Poirot is Agatha Christie. Sherlock Holmes. I think I prefer Sherlock Holmes. But I think I prefer Sherlock Holmes. But I'm not like a huge either one of them, right? That for whatever reason, they're not my thing. Okay, let's see. Don't you get tired and discouraged always defending people like Bill Gates who won't even stick up for themselves. Yeah, I do. What option is there? You got to keep going. You got to defend them because that's the right thing to do, and it's the just thing to do. How do you keep your composure when you're really angry, furious? What's the point? I mean, you keep your composure because life is too good not to, and you still gotta be guided by what you think is good, not by your emotion of the moment. And has an opponent ever physically attacked you? No, I mean, Antifa has physically attacked me. But even if you watch the video of Antifa attacking me, which was on my channel, just put your own book, Antifa, they're not that scary. And, it's pathetic. They're pathetic. Why would I get upset because of somebody else's being pathetic? Ridiculous. Stupid. So check that out. Watch how I behave. I'm curious what you think. Don't forget to like the show before you leave. Also, don't forget to subscribe. If there among you, those of you who are not subscribers, please subscribe. We're trying to get 25,000 quickly, and that would help us. So press the bell, and that way you'll get announcement for when I go live. Okay. If they ever abolish free speech, would you still continue to do your podcast until they arrest you? Probably. I might move somewhere where they can't get me, because I'm not eager to be arrested. So I might move to a bunker somewhere, right? How can collective interest long-term issues be studied, handled in a free market? CO2, sea levels, etc. Well, issues like CO2, sea levels are not collective issues. They affect every individual, or they affect some individuals more than others. But they affect us all. That is, if it's true, let's hypothesize, that increased CO2 in the atmosphere is going to kill us all, then, or going to make our lives miserable, or going to kill my kids in 40 years or whatever, then it affects every one of us, and therefore we have a motivation to do something about it. A motivation to do something doesn't mean coercion and force. It doesn't mean government intervention. It just means you have an incentive to do something. So it might be an incentive to not pollute or not, build a dike or suck CO2 out of the atmosphere or develop a technology that does something that improves our lives in a CO2 increasing. Or if it's sea level, rising sea levels, it might be moving inland. Why do we have to stop the sea? Why can't we just move? I never understood this panic. Sea levels are rising. They're going to be floods. Okay, there'll be floods. So Miami will become like Venice or uninhabitable at all, and people will have to move from Miami. I mean, it's not good, particularly if you live in Miami, but it's not the end of the world either. Amsterdam is below sea level, and it has been below sea level for hundreds of years, and it does fine. So get a grip. I mean, the hysteria, the panic, the fear, that's what's pathetic about climate change. Not the climate changing. The climate will change. It'll change in all kinds of ways. And it probably will get warmer. And it probably sea levels will rise. So deal with it. It doesn't require some, great reset. It doesn't require fascism. It doesn't require communism. The opposite. It requires freedom. Like every potential problem that we might have requires freedom. Can you see that a deeper issue with the line about poverty and CO2 is that it can come across as bow to progressive language? Look, I don't worry about bowing to progressive language. A lot of what I say, and I'm accused of it all the time, is that I don't think the left is a big enough enemy. I think I focus on the positive. I'm not particularly happy with that sentence. I didn't write it, and I'm not particularly happy with it. But I also don't think it's the end of the world, and I don't worry about it because it bows to progressive language. I worry about it because it doesn't reflect my views, particularly about CO2. I don't see the problem with poverty. Poverty, extreme poverty, in parts of the world is a real problem. It is a problem I care about. I don't want people to be extremely poor, particularly when I know it's not necessary for them to be extremely poor. And particularly when I know what the solution to their extreme poverty is. So I don't see how there's still people who are extremely poor in the world, and that's not good, is bowing to progressive language. It's true. Let's get rid of extreme poverty by what? By eliminating controls, regulations, taxes. By moving towards more freedom. Now, that's not the reason I want freedom, but it is a reason. It's not the reason. It's not my defense of freedom, hey, there won't be poverty. My defense of freedom is, hey, I and you can live our lives based on our own values and our own minds and our own principles. And look, it eliminates poverty too. How cool is that? All right, guys. I knew when that essay was published, you would have issues. You can have issues with future essays. That's okay. That's okay. Next show will be on either Friday or Saturday. We'll see if I decide to do a Friday show. Definitely on Saturday and Sunday. I'm off to Denver tomorrow morning, giving a talk Denver Friday morning, then coming right back. Next week is Austin. So in and out of Puerto Rico the next couple of weeks, starting to remind me of normal life. Me traveling all over the place, giving lectures, really starting to remind me of normal life. That is so cool. I'm excited about it. Naveen says, sorry, didn't get that. Why will people study long-term geology, ecology without profit motive? Oh, why will they study it? Because they're interested in it. Why do people study anything long-term? People study lots of things. I mean, how much profit motive is there in abstract, in physics? I mean, in real physics, not in the technological applications. So people study things because they love them, because they enjoy them. And people like geology is fascinating. Ecology, to the extent that we're talking about studying nature and its interactions, is amazing. It's wow, it's so interesting. So how do you guys know about a Lex Fridman show? Did I tell you? Did somebody else tell you? How do you know about that? I don't know. No, nothing's happened. Nothing has happened. It's about to happen, but it hasn't happened. All right, everybody. I will see you all. I'll see you all soon. Bye, everybody.